We'll return to that in just a moment. I'm just interested to touch briefly during the war years in your career overseas in the Air Force, and because during that time when you enlisted with the RAAF, you would have learned and attained many qualities of leadership, and I know, of course, many years later you were awarded the Légion d'honneur.
That was very kind of the French government. That was really for flying up and down the Bay of Biscay looking for submarines. I never found one.
Which was disappointing, I know.
Yeah. But I finished up after several months at Brighton, having an interview with a squadron leader who'd been a pupil on my father's first course at Narandra in 1940. He was looking for recruits for 10 Squadron, RAAF. It was an Australian squadron, all Australian squadron, both aircrew and ground staff, which had arrived in England, a regular Air Force squadron, just before the beginning of the Second War, and stayed on. I'd always expected to be posted to an operational training unit for Bomber Command, but the wait was quite long, and it was very boring to be at Brighton doing virtually nothing. So I sought an interview with Smith, and was one of 2 or 3 people, only one other, who was selected to go to 10 Squadron, and there I arrived on Christmas Eve 1943. I think that if I'd gone in the ordinary course to Bomber Command, I wouldn't be talking to you today, because the casualty rate there was enormous.
Apparently more casualties in training than in actual combat?
Yeah, but the combat, well, I don't know about that. But the losses in Bomber Command in the latter stages of the war, I'm talking of 43 and 44 mainly, when Bomber Command really got going, were of the same percentage as losses in the trenches in the First War.
I am interested, while you were engaged in flying the Sunderlands, Tom, I was very interested to know about something I've heard Air Force pilots describing during that time, of a very particular exhilaration that they experienced, the kind of, that no words can really capture, flying that aircraft that they did. Did you feel that, or was it much more of a different kind of emotional experience for you doing that kind of work?
I enjoyed flying Sunderlands. They were beautiful aircraft. We cruised at 110 knots, but I don't think I was ever exhilarated by being a pilot. I enjoyed it. I didn't have the same enormous enthusiasm for flying that my father had, because after the First War, my father continued to fly and became president of the Royal Aero Club of New South Wales, and he did so because he saw another war coming, and he thought that the Aero Club movement, and he was correct in so thinking, would probably form a nucleus of pilots who could be instructors in another war, which was on the way, so to speak.
He and Sir John Monash would have agreed about the importance of aeroplanes in war.
He was a great Australian whose full achievement was never properly recognised. He should have been Governor-General.
Did you read Monash, The Outsider Who Won a War, a book that was published a few years ago? Because it does attempt to rectify that oversight.
He was intellectually far ahead of the British generals, who many of them were responsible for the appalling casualties through plain stupidity.
He was described as the only general of any creative originality during that First War.
A great man.
So with airplanes being deployed during the Second World War and your role in them. So you said you didn't so much experience exhilaration, but you would have learned the habit of very quick decision-making.
Oh, I suppose so, yes.
And the importance of keeping a cool head.
I don't think I was an A-plus pilot, but I got by, and in due course became captain of an aircraft pretty late in the war, not till I was in 10 Squadron. Once it started off as the junior of 3 pilots, captain, first pilot, second pilot. Then you graduated to being a first pilot, and eventually, by a fluxion of time, a captain. And I was a year in the squadron before, in the ordinary course of promotion, I became a captain.
When the war was over, did you feel any sense of anticlimax, or did you know exactly what you were going to do?
I knew exactly what I was going to do, and there was no anticlimax. It was move on to another stage of your life and get busy again in the law.